Okay, says a small firm's daily output and employment costs are summarized as follows. Labor employed 2 workers, total output 100 units, 3 workers 160, 4 workers 200, 5 to 30 units. Wage per worker per day 50 kwacha per day. Price per unit of output 5 kwacha. Calculate the following for each of labor from. Calculate the following for each level of labor from 2 to 6. Okay, the marginal product of labor and the marginal revenue product. Colleagues, what's the marginal product of labor and the marginal revenue product? We have labor here, total output, marginal product of labor, MPL, marginal revenue product. Yes, the marginal product of labor. Tomorrow you might be asked, what is the marginal product of labor? Hmm, how would you define it? So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4. Which is 2 units. So it's the additional output produced by hiring one more worker. Okay. Additional output produced by hiring one more worker. Then what about marginal revenue product? Just say the additional revenue generated by hiring one more worker. Additional revenue by hiring one more worker. So the way we used to calculate the marginal product, marginal cost is the same way we're going to be calculating here. Okay. Marginal product is just the change in the labor. Okay. Change in output over change in labor. Change in output over change in labor. Excuse me. Now the change in labor is in increments of 1 unit. So our denominator will be 1. Okay. So we just need to subtract the total output. Okay. So the marginal product, when we hire the third worker, 160 minus 100, we get 60 units. So by hiring a third worker, they've brought an additional of 60 units. When we hire a fourth worker, 200 minus 160, 40 units. We hire the fourth worker, they've brought an additional of 40 units. When if we hire a fifth worker, 220, output increases to 220 from 200. So 220 minus 200, 20 units. So this fifth worker has brought 20 additional units. When we increase the number of workers from 5 to 6 workers, output increases from 220 to 230. So the marginal product 230 minus 220, 10. So this sixth worker has brought an additional output of 10 units. Any question? Okay. Then the marginal revenue product of labor is just the marginal product multiplied by this price per unit of output. Okay, because we say the revenue, marginal revenue product is the additional revenue generated by hiring one more worker. Okay, as you hire one more worker, they bring in additional output, which is the marginal product of labor. Then we're multiplying that by the price per unit of output. So this third worker, he brings 60 extra units. So the marginal revenue product 60 times 5, 300 kwacha. Okay, so the additional revenue is brought in is 300 kwacha. Okay, this fourth work brought in 40 extra products. So what's the additional revenue they've generated? 40 times 5, 200 kwacha. This fifth worker has brought in 20 extra units. What's the additional revenue they've brought in? 20 times 5, 100 kwacha. This sixth worker has brought in 10 extra units. So what's the additional revenue they bring in? 10 times 5, 50 kwacha. Okay, so I believe here we've got, oh, we're not yet done. Part A. Okay, we've calculated the marginal revenue product of labor, MPL. We've also calculated the marginal revenue product. Any questions, colleagues? Okay, so the question says identify the optimal number of workers the firm should employ. Justify your answer using the concept of marginal revenue product and wage. So, colleagues, a company has to hire where the marginal revenue product equals the wage rate. Not the wage bill, not the total wage bill, no, just the wage rate. Okay. So remember the wage rate here is 50 kwacha per day. Okay, so we're going to compare this the marginal revenue product with each of them. Okay, 50, 50. And we have to look for the point where marginal revenue product equals the wage rate. Okay, so here, the point where the marginal revenue product, MRP, equals the wage rate, 50 kwacha, this is the optimal number of workers, 6 workers, where the marginal revenue product equals the wage rate. So the firm should hire 6 workers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, According to this law, okay, madam, it says hire as long as the next worker brings in more revenue than they cost. Okay. So you can continue hiring, even though we can see, yes, we are seeing here it's diminishing, but according to this law, high until revenue product equals wage rate. High until that point. Once you reach that point, stop hiring. That's what this thing is. This law is saying. So even though it's diminishing there, until you reach this point, madam, where MRP equals wage rate, that's where you stop hiring. Mm. So I believe if you hire a seventh worker, you find now the additional revenue they're bringing in is less than what they cost. So now it's a problem to your business. That worker, briefly explain what would happen to the firm's profits if it had more than the optimal number. Okay. Of labor. Mhm. And as this law says, the moment you hire where the the worker costs more than the revenue that is bringing, that also affects your profitability. Okay. Because a worker, basically in essence here, a worker should bring you more money than they cost. Okay. They should bring you more money than they cost. Okay. Okay, let's see. Is that all of the paper? Yes. Okay.